Audio Engineering Tips by Donald Reed. Single flow. The first thing I'm going to talk about is single flow. Single flow starts from the time you hook up your mic to mixing board, mic XLR, to line in, to trim, to EQ, to post fader, to dual fader, is when you put the fader down. If the board is set to pre-fader, you can have an effect on the channel and pull the fader down and still hear the effect in the headphones because it separates the channel to level and so on. Mics. There are many different mics, as you most likely already know. Here are some of them. Omnidirectional picks up everything in a 360-degree radius. Another one is directional, everything in the front of the mic. Bidirectional, everything in the front and back. Supercoloroid, more picking up from the side. Hypercoloroid, even more from the side. Miking drums. You can use a number of mics, one on hi-hat, one on all the toms, to separate on overhead cymbals, one on bass. Drum. What some engineers do is use one or two mics like an omnidirectional on a whole drum set, putting the mic 6 feet in front of the drum. Another method is called earring miking, is when you put a directional mic beside the drummer's ear and the other beside the other ear. Pan one hard left and the other hard right, more balance and stereo effect. Recording guitar. Recording electric guitar. When recording electric guitar and using an effects processor, make sure you tweak to get the sound you want, like setting EQ for different tracks. Most preferred mic is directional. Putting the mic a little to the right of the speaker hole will cause more of an airy sound. Recording acoustic guitar. For singer-songwriters, some engineers use an omnidirectional mic. Put it halfway between the guitar and the singer. At times it may need to sound a little fuller. You can put a small wood board in the room. The sound will hit it and give the room some fullness and sound. Classical guitar and acoustic. Place directional at the 12th fret, 8 to 16 inches away, and one at bridge, and direct input to the console. Recording piano. When recording piano, you want to use the same quality of mic on the piano. For example, using directional mic on one side, use another directional mic on the other side. There are different ways to record piano. You can put two directionals pointed down in the middle of where the bass strings end and where the treble begin. You can take just one directional and put it at the side of the piano and put a cloth over the side to reduce leakage. Leakage is not your friend. You don't want them in your recordings. It can put sounds in your recordings that you do not want. Recording backup vocals. One directional mic to one side and the other to the other side. Have the singer face each other. What is dynamic range? It is the difference between the lows and highs without distortion. What does compression do? It keeps the lows the same while compressing the highs. What is timbre? The characteristic sound of a waveform or tone or color. Every complex waveform has a fundamental 440 Hz, 880 Hz, 1320. Makeup gain is whatever you lower or attenuate. Compression. 1.5 is good, 3.6 to 6.3 gives warm results. Limiter helps the levels from going over at 10.1. A limiter turns into a compressor. Proximity effect in coloroid mics. Proximity effect is when it sounds really bass heavy in a mic. Using a high bass pass can help with this. It is also necessary to consider proximity effect in a coloroid mic as a function of the operation angle. At 90 degrees angle, there is no proximity effect the closer you get to the mic, the more proximity effects will be there. Long story short, it is the air pressure around the mic at closeness. Frequency range. What is spectrum? The distribution of sound energy throughout the audible frequency range. What is frequency? The number of cycles per second. 1,000 Hz, 10,000 Hz, 20,000 Hz. The frequency range of audible sound is commonly taken as 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. Sound level. What is sound level? A physical quantity measured with the instruments. What is loudness? A psychophysical sensation perceived by the human ear-brain mechanism. What is decibel? 1/10 of a BL, which is the algorithm of the ratio of any two power-like quantities. What is logarithm? Common log to base 10 of a number is the exponent of 10 that yields that number. Estimating frequency band. Don't know how long you have been doing this, but it is always good to practice and listen to music to hear where the frequencies are lacking in the lows and mids and highs. In time you will be able to hear what is lacking. Frequency range is 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. The bandwidth is what is being focused on, like 20 Hz to 50 Hz. Masking is when the instrument is overpowering another. This is also a good way to train your ear. Listen to the instruments to hear if one is overpowering the other. When you hear that, use pan to correct it. Try 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock and so on till it sounds right to you. Advanced panning is wherever you recorded it, pan it to that area. Recording flute. Some recording engineers will say put it right at the mouth, but I think in the middle of the flute has the best balance and the best low-to-noise ratio. You can put some reverb on it for effect or delay. Ambient microphone. An ambient microphone is one that you put off in the corner to pick up the room sound to give it more of a warm sound. It's a good idea to put acoustic foam in the room so you don't get any reflections off the wall. You don't want them in your recordings. They won't sound full enough. Some recording engineers will use acoustic paneling that stand on a stand like Preamp Acoustic. Using a preamp. Using a preamp is a good idea when the signal coming from a mic or guitar sounds too low. It will give the boost it needs. Most preamps have preamp modulating on them for keyboard and guitar and vocals, and compression and limiting right on board. Some will have a phase cancellation button on it. Phase cancellation is when two mics are in close proximity. The sound hits each other and cancels the sound out. It will sound very low in volume. The rule is 3 feet away from each other, but having a button that does that is nice to have. Microphone characteristics choice. Natural smooth tone quality, flat frequency response, all EQ to full left. Bright present tone quality, rising frequency response, extended low dynamic and condenser with extended low frequency response, extended high condenser. Reduced edge or detail dynamic, boosted bass at close working distances, directional microphone, flat bass response, up close, omnidirectional, reduced pickup of leakage, feedback, and room acoustics, directional mic or omnidirectional, or directional at a greater working distances. Extra ruggedness, moving coil microphone, reduced handling noise, omnidirectional, or directional mic with shocking mount. Reduced breath popping, omnidirectional or directional mic with pop filter. Distortion-free pickup of very loud sounds, condenser with high MAS, SPL spec, or dynamic. Noise-free pickup of quiet sound, low self-noise, high sensitivity. The basics of digital audio. In the world of analog audio signals are passed, recorded, stored, and reproduced as change in voltage levels that continuously change over time. The digital recording process, on the other hand, doesn't operate in the continuous manner. Remember, analog is continuous, digital is not. Digital recording takes periodic samples of a changing audio waveform and transforms these sampled single levels into a changing audio waveform and transforms these sampled single levels into a representative stream of binary words that can be manipulated or stored for later processing and reproduction. What is dither? Dither is white noise. You use dither on a glass master just before you cut your CD. If you have some noise in your recording, using dither can put a layer over that noise and cancel it out, say maybe minus 30 dB for an example. Tips on clicks in your recordings. Most recording software has click remover in there. Sometimes you have to isolate the click by going over the part or highlighting the waveform where the click is and then removing it. Do this with stubborn clicks. What is timbre? Timbre is the characteristic sound of a waveform or a tone or a color. What are harmonics? Harmonics is a sound that is above the note or below. Using a little bit of reverb can tie the recordings together. What are dynamic controllers? Compressors, expanders, limiters. These are all dynamic controllers. Sine wave is in every sound, has 1 Hz because it cycles once. dB is the peak meter, VU, meter, is the average volume. 1000 Hz square wave has its own distinctive sound. All of its harmonics occur at the same odd multiples of the fundamental as with the triangular wave, but their magnitudes and time relationships are different. That concludes audio engineering tips. I hope you enjoyed listening.